You in? She's in.
Hello.
Oh, look at you. You match your towel. I like
Hi.
it.
You
Good
what?
hair, good towel. You matching your towel behind you.
Oh, yeah, that's actually me.
Oh,
My
yeah.
mum got them. Yeah, me and Arthur on the other side. She got a towel made up from this company, and I think they're in the States. Yeah, they do I've got mugs and everything. Super cute.
I like that. How are you doing? You all right?
I'm good, lovely. How are you?
I'm good. I've just quickly scribbled some notes down because I've just been like, whew. But I'm really cold as well today. It's lovely, but it's freezing. So
I know you're
yeah.
in a coat indoors.
No, I'm wearing my gilet, dear. My
Oh,
gilet.
okay.
Yeah,
Fair
because
enough.
otherwise I've got like my little Supreme crop top on. So yeah, just trying to keep warm.
Nice. So we've got some people joining. Awesome. Hi,
Hi,
guys.
Alicia. Hi, Katie. Give you all a
Amazing.
wave. Hello.
Mm.
So today we are talking about self-sabotage, and it's a big topic, right? There's so many things that can fall into this area, and I guess it's trying to touch on as many of those that we can, but without kind of bombarding it too much, that we kind of lose train of thought, I guess. Hi, Claire. And yeah, just to see if we can shed some light on some strategies that you can use, the areas that we've been through in terms of self-sabotage. I mean, making my list here. I've had to kind of prioritize my list because there's a few things that I'm still guilty of even now. So yeah, do you want to jump in, Cam?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm listening. Yeah, I'm just well versed in self-sabotage in all areas of life. And I still do it. Still just keeping myself in check. And so yeah, I mean, I've just jotted down some kind of tips really, but I think. Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking about it. Like relationships is one of them, which is why I have, for the time being, abstained from them for a while because I just turn into a crazy person in a lot of relationships, and yeah, it just I will sabotage. I would just to get out of them, and I think a lot of it's where like fear. It's all the self sabotage is fueled by fear for all of us. And yeah, in relationships, and it's a common one for everybody, it's sabotaging it, before think it's going to go wrong and kind of taking control of the situation. But my main one is taking on too much, and that one I have to be super mindful of, and I've done it again. And I think with lockdown kind of about to ease again, and this happened like last time with having all these things, you have everything in order, and then when other stuff comes back you can't sort of fit it all in. So I think what's really helpful for me is planning and looking ahead. I think when I don't look ahead, that's when I run into trouble, because nothing ever stays as it is. Things are always kind of changing and always moving. So just because something's working now, it doesn't mean it's going to work always. And being able to adapt and kind of move things around is a skill that I think we all need. Another self-sabotaging one of mine is like food and alcohol as well, and just changing state and mucking up sort of diets, not like on a diet, but just generally just messing up my goals intentionally. And I feel very much, and I feel like this is, I don't know if anyone else notices this, but I feel very much like a child when I'm about to self-sabotage myself. It's like I revert back to the child that I was. Potentially like needs weren't being met at the time. So I'm really mindful to treat myself like a child. So with like compassion in that sense, rather than sort of beating myself up and saying like, right, okay, let's take a step back. Let's like look at the situation, as opposed to just acting out, because that's what self-sabotage is. It's kind of just acting out and being reactive instead of looking at the situation and taking a mature view at it. I feel, and I really feel that kind of inner child sort of coming out when I'm about to act out or do stuff. And I think that the best thing for me is pausing. What about you?
Well, I think for me, it's funny you say planning. That's the first thing I wrote down in terms of strategies is planning. And I think my first one that I wrote down as well was again taking on too many tasks. And I think especially like as more business owner side of it, I think you generally try to, if you're wearing all the hats, you try to take on all these tasks. And for me, it's very much trying to prioritize, right, what 3 things do I need to get done today to move things forward? You know, ultimately, what's going to make the difference to move the needle tomorrow, and not think about, God, I need to get all this stuff done. Because yeah, I'm guilty of it. I've done another to-do list on my iPhone notes today because I've just got so many things to do. But
You love a list, you do. You're super organized.
Seriously, this is just like my life of lists and yeah, just life notes. And I think for me, massively has been, obviously with what I do, it's food, definitely, in terms of having a lack of control, overindulgence, like you say, going into that childlike state, which again it's our survival brain kicking out like a child, because that's just how it functions when it's faced with a new challenge, of especially if you've got that thought process of somewhere in your childhood development, like say an unmet need, and you've attributed to the fact that in some way you are not good enough, and that just kind of pulls along into the rest of your life. And I mean, I've got it, yeah, I always remember one of my clients that I took on, and I asked her, set her a task to do in her first session, and she's, I think, mid 50s, and she just said, like, the feedback were, I could feel myself just building into this childlike state. I was having a paddy with myself, and it just didn't make sense. And ultimately, that's what a lot of us will do, right? We'll fall into this like rebellious kind of silly mode where we don't have like any rational thought. It's all very much emotional driven. And I think for me, I mean, I am getting better at procrastination, because very much now I do just say procrastination with tasks that do actually need doing. But, you know, it's like if something's starting to drag and I find it not as enjoyable, then I'll switch to something else and then come back to that, which isn't ideal for obviously staying focused on a task. But yeah, phone does make me procrastinate a lot. I mean, obviously clients texting, it's a case I can't always just sit there and let it be. I feel like I need to text them back right then and there to give them the best service. But I know that obviously boundaries wise, for me, it's messing up my boundaries of doing what I need to get done. And I guess self-comparison for me has been a massive one of, right, well, they've got that and they're better than me, so why the fuck should I bother? Mic drop. Yeah, that's got me a lot of times. I had a moment, even last night, complete imposter syndrome moment, actually, of obviously, you know, what I'm moving forward with on the PT side. And I was like, I'm not good enough. Why am I doing this? What's the point? And I'm
imposter
like, right.
syndrome. Yes, we love a bit of that.
Yeah, I can very much say that I've had spells of these even this week, ladies and gents. So we are not impermeable to any of this self-sabotage. It's just obviously having strategies in place to obviously then help you move forward with it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like a daily thing. It comes up daily for me. But I think what I find helpful is separating that as like, you can feel the childness of it, the like, I'm not getting what I want, like the proper just throwing toys out the pram.
I want my cookies.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, so like let's separate that and then just like look after the child in the situation and talk to it, you know, like you would reason as much as you can with a young child. So yeah, I mean, my kind of tips, so I wrote 3 tips, but they're all kind of interrelated really. But I find, well, first of all, think before acting. And in order to think is, you know, to process stuff somehow. And that's why journaling is useful, you know, kind of on a daily basis. But you know what? These days I don't journal so much every day because I find like I'm just writing stuff for the sake of it and I don't need to. But in order to process like thought patterns, because when you put it out on paper, you're like, I'm being absolutely ridiculous. Like this is just madness. But when it's all in your head, you know, it's like you can't distinguish you know, those kind of like, I sound like schizophrenic here, but you know,
these voices, it's putting them in boxes.
Yeah. And so if you write it out on paper, you're able to kind of process it. You can sort of process and maturely face the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And B, you're usually able to see how ridiculous it is, and how, you know, acting in whatever way you want to act out isn't actually for your greater good. And
Yeah.
it is short-term thinking, isn't it? Self-sabotage.
Absolutely.
It's not long-term thinking.
No.
And we have to really consciously make an effort to you know, think long term, because we're always seeking, you know, pleasure or seeking happiness or whatever in the immediate effect. We want that instant gratification, even, rather than thinking what's going to benefit us further down the line. And so I think the third thing would be working through things and not distracting, and not ignoring either.
Mm-hmm.
And I think with building up of tasks as well, for me, that's where, you know, I'm just kind of like, oh, I'll just do something else, and you're not actually dealing with whatever it is that needs to be done. So there's a bit of like procrastination there as well. But you're not, the problem is, if it's not dealt with, then it's going to come up later. And if there's like deep rooted stuff, and we are talking about sort of way back when, somewhere in kind of childhood, that stuff needs to be dealt with. And I think sort of taking this inner child approach and really addressing and seeing what needs aren't being met is a really helpful way of processing that, and dealing with it, rather than just giving it what it wants: food, alcohol, you know, extra things to do to keep it entertained, and just ignoring it because it's just going to come up later on with its wants. So it's like training, really, like training a child and disciplining a child is the way I see it, and the way I handle it within myself.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is down to parenting. Obviously, not to knock any of our parenting, but at that point we were, like I said, always distracted by other things. As soon as we wanted for something, generally we will have had, you know, food, a dummy, you know, a task, something chucked at us to just instantly try and distract us, and never fully actually getting what it was that we wanted. You know, it might just be a hug, a cuddle, to just feel loved at that point, and we never got it. And the amount of times that then that happens builds and builds and builds. Obviously, that child can't really make sense of that, and will ultimately then think, well, I'm not lovable, I'm not good enough. And that's all where this kind of amalgamates and begins from. And I like Katie's put on there, I have a rant book.
I just saw that. I didn't want to interrupt you, but I was like, brilliant, a rant book. Love it.
I think we do need that. I think it's so useful to have somewhere that you can jot down. And it's what I do with, you know, the ladies that I have for my intensive courses. We very much write down a lot of the rational thoughts, but ultimately a lot of the binge urge voices that come up, what that is saying to you, reflect back, and does that actually sound like the real you or not? And to really go through that process of, you know, sticking things in a box, right? That's not me, that's survival brain, right? That's rational me. That's ultimately, like you say, survival brain is very much the instant gratification, the here and now, just wants to move from a state of pain to pleasure, whereas the more rational part of our brain is very much forward thinking, but we just need to start to connect the two again. For me, it is planning. Like, I will literally go through in my diary and have everything time allotted, and I'll also make sure I've got buffer time at either side as well, because obviously things do crop up where, like, Amazon and Hermes rock up and chuck stuff at your door and disrupt life. And yeah, so planning for me is a massive one, and because if it's the more things that are in my brain, the more things get sacked off. And for me, it is still very much like this week. I've had a really busy week, and I've not trained as much. And it's taken the last 2 days. I'm like, right, I'm putting it in here in my diary, and I'm putting it in here in my diary. I got it done first thing this morning. So then for me as well, for the second task, I would say it's around belief systems, of very much like, obviously, understanding our why and where we're going, why we're going there. The consequences of why and what will happen if we don't reach that, but also the rules and restrictions that we place on ourselves. Because often the case is that as soon as we do put a rule or restriction upon us, that's why we'll kick up a fuss. take dieting. As soon as you tell someone to not have, especially if they like, I don't know, sweets, chocolate, tell them to not have that. What's the first thing that they think of and generally go for? So it's having a plan to keep those things in as much as possible, obviously within the confines of, you know, whatever the goal is, but to maybe consider what rules and restrictions you put on yourself every single day. And it's not just in terms of food, it can be very much in terms of you have a belief system that certain things need to be done every day because that's just your routine. But really, does it need to be done? Is it that important? If it wasn't to get done, would the fucking world collapse? Generally not. It's generally with me and cleaning, I'm like, it doesn't really need doing. I'll just
Well, we get stuck in these patterns, don't we? Like autopilot, and we, you know, then they become a subconscious thing. And of course, oh, we've got helpful subconscious behaviors, then we've also got unhelpful ones, you know, that we've just been doing. And it's actually like we haven't stopped to question why we're still doing these things. And sometimes you can take those things out and replace them with new things.
Yeah, and that's why again why the journaling can help as well. If you can see it on paper, that's what you're doing. And start to then be curious and question yourself, why am I doing this? What does it serve to do? What goal is it moving me closer towards? And then start to actually move around, right? All these things I've got to get done. What are the top 3? Move them to the top, get them done first thing in the morning. If they're the more difficult tasks, get them done first thing. Don't leave them to the end of the day. You know, in terms of our levels of like creativity and stuff, it's especially, well, for people that are more early birds and stuff anyway, but is to get those, it's like eat that frog, isn't it? That get everything done.
About it yesterday, yeah.
All the different difficult tasks, all the ones that are more challenging. Start to chip away on them first thing. Get the mundane stuff done at the end of the day because it's, you know, it's still going to be there ultimately. And if you don't get through it all, then just schedule your time better for obviously moving forward. If it's really not important, and if it keeps not getting done, then clearly it's not that important.
That's such a key point, and that is sometimes a tough pill to swallow with some things.
Yeah.
And I've had that before, and I'm like, why don't I want this? I feel like I should want this, and I feel like I should want it because everybody else is telling me, maybe not directly, but indirectly that I should want this. And so I've taken that on board, and then you're like, oh, I've opened up a can of worms on that, so I've got to go, you know, work out that as well. But yeah, totally.
Yeah. Amazing. So does anyone have any questions that are currently still tuned in? Let us know what your biggest areas of self-sabotage are. What have you done recently where you thought, why did I even do that? It'd be really interesting to see what comes through.
So, hey, so now I've seen Bonnie. She might not even still be on. Bonnie, you still here? Or Farouk? Both of you? Hello.
Can't see, can't tell. Let's have a look. I think we have Gemma, Hannah,
hey, Josh.
And Josh.
Next.
Everyone's been too shy.
Awesome. All right, well, we can leave it there, but we do want you guys to help us out with what we want to cover next week. As I said, we've got tons of topic ideas, literally. We keep thinking up new ones. I'll probably do a poll on my stories. Sam, you'll probably do the same with a couple, but if there's like 2 or 3 topics that you can think of that you want to cover, what have we done so far? Belief systems, self-sabotage, mindset and motivation, vulnerability.
And that takes us up to today.
Takes us up to, okay.
I think.
Yeah, so any other...
We did the intro one the first week as well, didn't we? So, yeah. Oh, Hannah's this message. So, not planning my work day when I'm really, really busy. Yeah, I've actually just had this same conversation with one of my clients. She goes back into teaching this next week or so. It's like, right, we need to get knuckled down now on when you're going to get your food prep done, where you're going to fit your training sessions around your working day. Put your non-negotiables in your diary and figure out what the gaps are that you need to get, obviously, the more important stuff done. But for me, having an afternoon, like even a couple of hours, like on a Sunday of planning time is absolutely imperative in terms of making sure that shit doesn't hit the fan midweek and, you know, you're kicking yourself.
Fail to prepare.
I was trying to think of this earlier. I was like, I can't remember what the phrase is, but fail to plan to fail or something. I was like,
that works too. But And just going on that, like I harp on about this, but meal prep is such a game changer. Like it really is, because it's like the one basic thing, like we need to eat, and to get that taken care of, it just makes such a difference. It makes such a difference. And I think a lot of people have a go-to on food and eating crap or picking at stuff. So not only is it like great practice and organization in general, and then you free up so much mental space of like, oh, what do I want to eat, or what should I eat, or I shouldn't eat that, or what can I eat, or do I really want that? It's done, it's there. And then when you are hungry and you are acting out in a bit of a self-sabotage way, you just grab like something with like that you planned already, because when you're planning stuff, you're not going to plan crap meals. Because you're thinking in advance, aren't you? So you're thinking for your greater good when you're planning ahead, when you're prepping, as opposed to just grabbing on the go. So
absolutely.
I just had to jump in because I just meal prep is life.
Even now, like even though I don't really need to necessarily do it because I'm just sat here all the time, but even then it does make it easy because I'm not having to then go and actively cook fresh food every day. You know, I could, but even now, you know, I still forget to eat some days, and Meg knows it's fine.
I find it more important to do when you're at home because the fridge is like constantly calling. So actually I'll think twice about what I want. I'm like, oh, but I did make a meal. A, you've made it, so you don't want to waste it.
Yeah, don't waste it.
Yeah, you just think, well, it's there, I need to have it, rather than making up some other stuff.
But
cool.
If everybody else is cool with that, then we will leave it there for today. And like Cam says, we're gonna stick out some polls. Oh, I've just had a flurry of love hearts.
I know, I just saw
that was weird.
Hearts.
Woo! And then this will be reposted up on our pages. And just keep us posted. Any topics of interest, please let us know, and we will look to work them in somewhere as well.
Perfect.
Lovely.
All right. Thanks, guys, for joining us.
See you later.